I'll be quick. My female 26, fiance male 32, is blind. We don't disagree a lot, except he always gets bothered whenever I eat different food from what he's eating when we go out. Like if we're having dinner out and I order something else, he'd instantly get upset and accuse me of treating him as less than when I just have different taste in food. I'd eat what he eats to keep the peace. I eat out alone as an alternative, but since he clearly doesn't trust me, he randomly touched my plate to see if I have the same dish. This has caused huge arguments between us, and I told him to stop doing it, and he said he would. We went out to eat nights ago, and I ordered the same dish he ordered. When the food arrived, he looked somewhat uncomfortable. I asked him what was wrong, and he refused to say. And before I could even grab the fork, he extended his arm, and his hand touched the food on my plate. He moved quickly and started excusing what he did, saying he just wanted to make sure. But I lost it on him. I felt so disgusted, and there's no way I could eat the food after he touched it. He tried to get me to drop it, saying I shouldn't be grossed out by his hand and that I overreacted. But I grabbed his plate and told him I'm taking it as my dinner. He at first asked me to be rational and give the plate back, but I refused. An argument ensued, and we had a fight. He then ended up leaving and started spam texting me, accusing me of being bitter, pathetic, and childish, and robbing his dinner. He went to stay with his friend, who picked him up, and his friend sided with him, saying I was in the wrong, even went as far as to say that I was abusing my fiancé and financially controlling him when I pointed out that I was the one who paid for this food. The problem is magnified now, with him wanting an apology and me refusing to give him one. My parents think I should have more patience and that this is typical love spats between us, but I'm not sure. Was I the idiot for how I handled this? Edit. I want to point out that this is not the case when we eat at home. He has no issue with me eating different food, but in public, it's a different story. Why on earth does he insist that you must order the same dish he orders at the restaurant? And why are you following this rule he's implemented? This is ridiculously controlling. Since you are at a restaurant, he most likely heard you ordering the same meal, so touching it to be sure is unnecessary. It seems like a power play to me. Not the idiot, but your fiancé is unreasonably controlling. The fact that he wouldn't eat the plate that he touched shows that he knows it's a disgusting thing to do. Then he gets cranky and goes pouting at his friend's house? For what? All this drama because of his unreasonable hang-up about you eating different food than him. Do not marry this man. He will use his disability at every turn to make you the bad guy. Seeing how controlling he is now, it'll probably get 10 times worse when you're married. The fact that you're even questioning yourself in this instance shows that he spent a significant amount of time convincing you that his having control over you is normal and how it should be. I'm sure this isn't the only way he tries to exercise control over you. Why do you put up with this? Do you realize how incredibly disrespectful, forget bizarre, controlling, unsanitary and selfish, etc., it is for him to touch your food to ensure you're eating the same food as him? I can't believe you allow that. And the fact that he managed to get his friend to accuse you of abuse and your parents to believe this is a typical spat is deeply, deeply concerning. It means he's not only manipulating you, he's manipulating others in your life in his quest to control and isolate you. I implore you to put all wedding planning on hold. It's disgusting just to stick your fingers in someone else's dinner and expect them to eat it. Girl, are you really so desperate? Is the bar this low? Being single is better than this. I'm a 26-year-old female, and my boyfriend is 28. We've been together for 1 year now. He has a high-paying job, and so do I. He purchased a house against a loan 2 years ago, before we met, so he must pay off his mortgage. I live in a rented apartment alone, so finances are not an issue. The next step for us is to move in. His house is nicer and in the central part of the city, and my lease ends in December this year. We've been having arguments regarding some financial decisions. He wants me to pay rent, half his mortgage, to move into his house. He reasons that it's no different than paying rent to a landlord for having a roof over my head. I countered him and told him something like this. First, you're using the term rent to disguise the fact that you want me to pay towards your mortgage, extorting me. You build assets and gains from this deal by having only yourself on the deed and not me when I paid the exact same amount as you through rent. Considering we date for the long term, he and I don't want marriage. I gain nothing from investing in this property if we break up. I was really fiery when I told him that this wasn't a fair trade because we're both supposed to be partners, and I made it very clear I would not pay rent unless I'm at least part owner of the house somehow. When he countered again with this subterfuge logic about the landlord-tenant relationship, I said if we both rent a place together and pay rent to a landlord, that would be different because it's not like one of us is getting a name on the deed and gaining any benefits, so it's fair and equitable. This isn't me being greedy. This is me honoring my principles and ensuring I'm not financially taken advantage of. I am open to paying rent as long as we both stand as equals. His face was red by now, and he called me a stuck-up witch. I called him greedy and left. Am I the idiot? It seems like the problem's been resolved. Thankfully, everyone's the idiot. Why? He's an idiot for thinking that his mortgage should have any bearing on how much rent you pay. It should be set according to market value instead, and I suspect you'd actually pay more. You're greedy for thinking you're entitled to half the equity in his house just because you pay rent. You're actually entitled to checks, notes, nothing. Calling rent extortion is just being an entitled idiot. Disagree. You are the idiot. This is way too big an ask, an expectation of him, so early into a relationship. He's taking all the risk here. If you were living together and you contributed for a few years, then yes, your request would be different, but not a year into the relationship and you've never lived together. The way you're speaking about this and the language used is a massive red flag to me. OP, I've been in this situation before, and I completely understand your points. You are not the idiot. Do not move in with him and subsidize his investment. Just stay living apart unless he can devise a way that you can both profit from the arrangement. Make no mistake, he will be profiting from it. A house is a good investment because you're almost guaranteed to get out more than you put into it. So he'll actually be getting more than what you put in if and when he sells the place. If he complains about buying a home together because he wants to be the only one to gain, then just get a better boyfriend. I'll try to keep this short. My male 57, son 23, is engaged to Peggy, female 22. They've been engaged for 5 months or so. Our culture dictates that Peggy's father and I share the wedding cost. He, her father, said we should provide $10K each, a total $20K budget. I could afford this, sure, but this seems wild and extravagant to me. I said I'd give $5K, and he could give whatever he wanted. Peggy's father also put up $5K. I told my son this, and he told me outright it wouldn't be enough. He said, I don't mind. I figured that Peggy and I would have to pay for some of the weddings. I asked what he meant. He said no way would they be able to do their wedding for under $10K. I said my own wedding, after haggling in deals, only came out to around $7K, so I don't think this is an issue. He argued against me and said that my wedding was 40 years ago and prices were different. He outlined some prices and said that the cheapest venue he could find was $5K and the food alone was going to be $2.5K. He said again that he didn't mind and he thanked me for giving them money for the wedding, but I honestly felt hurt that he thought we weren't giving enough. I asked how food could come out to $2,500, and he said that that was only around $25 a person. I suggested ordering pizza or sub sandwiches, but he looked at me like I was crazy. I said, okay, well, we can just offer less for the photographer and decorator. And he said, that isn't how things are done. I said, it is how things are done. And maybe if he and Peggy weren't so spoiled and expecting the best of the best for everything, then $10K would be plenty. After I said this, he just closed his eyes, thanked me for the money, and told me to get out. I complained about this to my wife, and she told me that I was being a stick in the mud, and it was his only wedding. My friends agreed with me, though. Am I the idiot? Yes, you are the idiot. He thanked you for the money and is planning on paying for the rest. How they spend their money isn't your business. Can you seriously not envision that prices have increased over several decades? I got married in 2012. I paid $50 a head for the venue and the food. It was the cheapest venue in the area. The same venue now charges $150 per head for the exact same thing. I Googled a quick inflation calculator. $7,000 in 1983 is about $24.5K now. So by your logic, you should be giving him $12,000, not $5K or $10K. Obviously, you aren't obligated to give him any money, but he kindly accepted the $5K you offered, and you had no place to then berate him about how he was overspending and how you have no reason to feel hurt over this. Have you tried just getting pizza or subs instead? I'm 51. This guy is 6 years older than me. It's baffling to me that he said his wedding was only $7K. Bro, what the heck? Was your wedding also a pizza party? If you're looking to help them save money, start by uninviting yourself. Yikes. Based on how cheap he is, he might have made his mother, sisters, and aunt cook for the guest. Sir, if culture dictates that you and the other father should split the cost, and your son points out how much things cost, you should reflect on that. They're not being spoiled. You're being stingy. Don't ask someone to order pizza and subs for their wedding dinner. Even after all of this, your son had the decency to thank you for your contribution. If nothing else, you raised a decent person. My dad is pretty rich and is retired at 50. He's been dating this woman, Laura, for a couple of years, and it worried me that she was just after his money. She's 35. My dad said he'd never marry or have any more kids besides me, 24 male, because he wanted to leave everything to me. Last year, Dad texted me and said he had some good news about him and Laura. I thought they were going to get married, and I was going to tell him to get a prenup to make sure our family money stays in the family. No, he and Laura were going to have a baby. I told my dad he was gross for having a kid at 50, and now he's on the hook financially. He said he was thrilled to become a dad again. I told Laura she was disgusting for tricking my dad into becoming a dad, and she's not getting any of his money when he dies. My dad has like $5 million in life insurance policies. She said she was insulted by what I said, and I said I call out gold diggers as I see them. Of course, ever since my brother was born, she kept asking him to change his will. I told my dad she should get a job and not try to live off of him. Am I the idiot for telling my dad's girlfriend that she's a gold digger? You are the idiot. To make sure our family money stays in the family? It's not our money. It's his money. Not even going to bother with the obvious, which is that your sibling, the baby, is family, as is his mother. If you're calling out gold diggers, did you first look in the mirror? That's exactly what you sound like. Dude, your father's 50, not elderly, and Laura didn't get pregnant by herself. Your sense of entitlement is nothing short of disgusting. Your father can handle his own affairs without your help. You're just jealous that you won't get the whole enchilada once he dies. Absolutely sad. Time to start making your own way through life and plan on providing for yourself versus counting the money in Daddy's estate. I'm not trying to change his will. She is. Are you for real? He has 2 children now. He should change his will. You can't be happy for your dad, and you're only thinking about how much money you're getting once he dies. How much have you contributed to our family money? You do realize your father's not dead yet, right? Dude, it's your dad's money. He can do whatever he wants to do with it. Maybe he'll spend every last dime on people who actually care about him and not just his money. My 19 female brother Troy, tween, has been a nightmare since childhood. He curses at us and calls our mom Diana, her first name. I think a big reason for this is that Troy's dad isn't in his life, and my mom really hasn't handled this in the best way. Mom makes excuses for Troy, like he hasn't been the same since his father left. But I don't think she's tried therapy, and she's basically given up and decided that Troy is just going to be this way, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. My mom tells lies to hide how bad things are with Troy. I think she's in denial herself, and it's her coping mechanism to avoid being too overwhelmed by the situation. It's not as if Troy acts any better in front of people outside the family. Troy was kicked out of his public school after an extremely cruel prank, but she's told people that she started homeschooling Troy because she realized that gifted kids need to lead their own education. He's in a homeschool co-op, but is on thin ice because of how he acts. I've had to help with Troy and have ended up parenting much more than a sister should have to. Often our mom couldn't get off work, and I'd end up having to take Troy home or talk to his teachers because he got in trouble. It's a strain because Troy really doesn't respect me much more than he does our mom. He flips me off, calls me names, and yells over stupid things. Troy doesn't show any real respect or appreciation, even when I'm trying to do something nice for him. My friend Haley has a sister who just married and moved in with her now husband, meaning there's an empty room at Haley's house. Haley and her parents said that as long as I pull my weight with chores and stay out of trouble, I can live with them and pay nothing in rent. I accepted Haley's offer and have lived with her for about 4 months. Unfortunately, things are not going well with Troy and our mom. She told me that she couldn't handle Troy alone and begged me to come back home because she needed help with him. My mom offered to buy me a car and pay for all its insurance and gas if I came back. I know this isn't easy for her, and it means she's desperate. I told my mom I was sorry, but I like my current living situation and don't want to return to Troy's chaos and disrespect. I told my mom that I loved her, but she said I was breaking her heart, and she accused me of not even caring. I feel awful because I know my mom is desperate and she can't handle Troy, but he doesn't respect me, and I can't deal with him either. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mom is overwhelmed and not making good choices, but emotionally manipulating her child to take care of her younger child is not a good look on anyone. The offer of the car is tempting, but it sounds like you already realize it's not worth it. Your mom needs to figure out how to parent her son. You should stay where you are for as long as you can, not only for yourself, but so she's motivated to do what she needs to do. This, OP, I would talk to your mom and tell her she's clearly struggling, but the solution is for her to get her son into therapy. Find an alternative school for children with behavioral issues and take some parenting classes, not guilt you into continuing to be a secondary parent. Then distance yourself from your mom and brother. This isn't your battle to fight. Absolutely. If she has the money for a car, then the first step is a diagnosis. Then they might be able to actually help him. Your mom needs to look into tough love, parenting classes, or just effective parenting. She could have taken advantage of 1 million free parenting resources. Instead, she used you. I suspect that the mother would buy the car, but keep the title instead of giving the title to OP. This way, the mother would ultimately control the car in order to ensure OP takes care of the brother. OP could use the car until they did something mom didn't like, such as living her life, and then the car's gone. along with any chance of escape. Do not fall for the trap, OP. Troy is not your kid. Thank goodness. Do not sacrifice your own life for this spoiled bully. I'm sorry it's so hard on your mom, but parentifying you and wrecking your life is not the answer.